when he said no awkward hellos, you don't know how much that means to me. That I don't. I've had to practice my hellos, especially like during COVID when people started walking their dogs more around the neighborhood. Like I'm like, hello, hi, how's it going? Like these are things I have to look in the mirror and actually practice because I like don't know how to process awkward hellos. So I
Yeah, like you don't really think about it until you're like a homeowner and you're in a neighborhood and it's like, oh, I have to be nice to people. I have to like I might be setting roots here. Don't be an asshole. When do I wave? When do I say hello? When do I stop and have a conversation? Either
it's
way,
not
I don't want any of it.
oh, exactly. I don't want it.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot
Make yourself a grasshopper
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Wonderful, because we just watched the Dead Hooker Juxtaposition.
Oh, yeah.
This is episode 19. We are close to the end of season 2 and onward to season 3. It's
right?
pretty
It's going
crazy.
pretty quickly. Yeah. Well, the whole year's kind of gone quickly, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But,
Well, for any new listeners out there, I'm Rob. This is my co-host Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. And Ryan has also been told that he's been very similar to Sheldon, so we keep a tally point of how close Ryan is to being a Sheldon. Any updates on our count?
last we have it, we are equal 62 and 62.
Does that include our last episode of the Work Song Nano Cluster where we didn't really do any IQ points and tallies and everything? Did you go back and watch it again? Or
I did not. I figured that one.
we'll just kind of do a wash?
Yeah, I remember thinking as I watched it, there weren't any hard striking points, and maybe one on each side, so I wasn't too concerned about it.
Okay.
Well, if we get to like a tie in the end, or even the end of the season, I'll go back and double check that one.
Put a little bookmark at this spot.
Yeah.
Well, for any, if this is your first time, or if you haven't watched our last episode, we changed up our format with the last episode, the Work Song Nano Cluster, and we actually did a reaction video. It was really fun. Ryan and I were actually in the same room, and we actually just watched it and just kind of had fun with it.
I'm curious what people think of that. You know, I it's definitely not a podcast material, but it was a fun experiment, and you got to see kind of our thoughts as we were watching it.
Yeah.
And what the crazy things we think of.
Yeah.
Unedited minds.
Yep. A lot of Bluetooth talk.
Yeah.
All right, so a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Follow the link in our show notes to all of our social media. There's also a link to a history of all the IQ points from previous episodes. Our Instagram account is at Theoretical Nonsense Pod, and follow us on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we'll read your email. And then if you give us a 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out, which segues into our contest. So, yeah, we have a 5-star review contest. So if you write us a 5-star review, or if you've previously written a 5-star review, it makes you eligible for a raffle for a $100 gift card to Amazon. So the key to doing this is that you give us a 5-star review. You have to write something. Anything you want, just slam on the keyboard if you want, whatever. Just give us.
If it's positive, that would be great.
But yeah, say something nice.
Yeah.
Our egos need to be stroked a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a rough summer. We need some ego stroking.
But then you also need to email us because we don't want a Spartacus situation on our hands. So shoot us an email of what your screen name is on the review. So right now we have 3 people in the
I
pool.
was gonna say we have 3, right?
Yeah, we just added Pixie. Pixie, sorry again about not responding to you. I don't check the email as often as I should.
And I've been kind of backlogged with some summer courses and troubling students. So I forgot to check as well. And I keep thinking like, oh, I'll do it soon. And then it just kind of time flies by. And it's like, oh no, it's been a couple weeks.
Well, we want to give people as much opportunity as possible to enter into this drawing. So this drawing, well, the winner will be announced on December 3rd. So that coincides with our season 2 recap.
It's kind of a nice end of the year celebration and gives a little present for a winner,
Yeah.
I guess.
So really, I mean, that recap will be dropped on December 3rd. So I guess technically it's December 2nd that you haven't to actually enter, because then I'll be able to like backlog and actually slip something in.
Last minute entries. You know, that reminds
me.
Or
should we just say December 1st? Should we just make that cutoff December 1st?
Yeah, I think so. I think December 1st.
It gives us a couple of days to edit. And
so for the people who are still like food comas from Thanksgiving, they have a couple days to get through and
write us a drunken review, a turkey drunk review.
A turkey drunk review. I was thinking about we didn't have grasshoppers while you were here. We had enough to drink by all means, but we did not have a grasshopper.
I know. We actually talked about updating our thumbnail and with a picture of us holding grasshoppers. So, damn.
Oh,
well, maybe if we take a picture, I'm learning a lot more about editing. Oh, speaking of which, send me that thing that I sent you.
Yes, that's on board for this week. Yeah, I'll get it next couple days.
Okay. Whenever you get a white background, just so I can cut things out. Yeah.
Candy.
Yeah. But you know what? If I actually am in Washington again, which I am going back in October, maybe we can get depending if I have time.
Yeah, I know you're planning on. School year too, and the baby. I can see it being busy, depending on how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not likely, but we'll see.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we got a new email. I don't know if you saw.
I saw the one from Pixie.
Okay. Well, we got one from Naomi. She wrote, watched Big Bang Theory for the first time fall of 2022 and finished it in 2 months. Started your podcast last month. Love it. Great companion to a brilliant comfort show. Please keep it going. Naomi, thank you, and we will.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's like waited all this time to watch it too. That people are looking at me like, you haven't seen the Big Bang Theory.
I feel like for me, a lot of times I wait for a show to get past season 3 just to know if it's worth it. Because if it gets that far, it's kind of getting to that level of syndication. And that's like kind of like a sign that it's a good show.
And that it's going to make it for an actual story arc and not cut off in the middle of something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like my favorite show, Carnival, on HBO. Like, got through one part of a story arc, and then they canceled it. I'm like, why?
I need to know what happens. It's kind of like, I just found out that How I Met Your Father got canceled after 2 seasons.
I heard that, too.
So that's why I'm not going to... I watched, like, the first few episodes, and it's like, well, we'll see where it goes.
And, you know, sometimes it takes like a season or 2 to really get the characters down and make them more coherent, I guess. Take something like Boy Meets World, like the main character, what's his name?
Corey,
yeah. Ben Savage in real life?
Yeah.
His character, like I always saw in the first season or 2, he's like really annoying. And then like he gets changed and his character gets solidified as kind of like a goofy kid, and I'm like always like those later seasons more because they actually knew what they were doing, as opposed to this like kind of ornery a nuisance of a child.
In general, we've talked about this before, but it's always the boys that are so annoying.
Yeah,
we talked about it with Ozark, and I actually had movie night with my wife a little while ago, and we watched Extraction 2. Of course, it's the boy. That's
The boy.
super fucking annoying. It's always the boy.
Why do you, the boy? Why do you have to be so dumb, boy?
Every time you see a young boy, a young teenage boy, you know they're fucking stupid.
That's the boy trope.
Yeah.
You're gonna be stupid, aren't you, boy?
You're gonna make dumb decisions, which leads to chaos.
Pointless chaos that no one would actually get into because nobody's that dumb, boy.
But if you like action, watch Extraction 2. It was fucking dope.
Besides the boy, it's pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah. Like, some of those action scenes, I was, like, blown away by how they did it. I was like, holy fuck. Like, I'm getting to that age where too much action is draining, and I just honestly am not really enjoying it. But they had, like, this really long, I swear it was, like, 15 minutes solid of just pure action, and I was, like, captivated the whole time. I was like, oh my god.
That's you know, I kind of feel that way about the Transformer movies. Like, there's so much nonstop action that, like, by halfway through, I'm like, I don't really know what's going on and don't really care.
You're fatigued on it. It's like, what is happening right now?
And it's like in horror movies, right? They can't keep up scary the whole time through. They have to, like, put in jokes or, like, little areas of boobs, yeah, a boob here and there to calm things down a little bit, make things a little bit lighthearted, and then you pick up the scary again, and it's even stronger that time.
Yeah, because you let your guard down.
You let your guard down. You forgot to put up your shields, like in this episode.
Yep, shields didn't go up. Where did that come from?
You know, I was reminded too. I wanted to tell you that. Have you watched any of the new Futurama?
No, I haven't.
You heard that it got picked up again, right? I've watched a couple episodes, but I had to skip to the newest episode because it was the holiday special. For some reason, the holiday special is airing like
now,
August.
Yeah.
But in earlier seasons, they have a time machine, but the time machine was broken and could only go forward in time. And so
that's what would have happened if I made the thing longer.
Exactly.
A man can dream.
To get back to the right spot, they have to go all the way to the end of the universe and resetting the Big Bang. Because in theory, like, everything will collapse on itself and the Big Bang will start over again and recreate the world and the universe as it is, and everything repeats constantly. And so they repeat it and get to the Earth again and just pull the time machine to a stop when they get to the second they want to, and they miss it again and they have to go through the whole thing again. But in this one, it gets stuck in reverse, and the old man, Professor Farnsworth, is that his name, is like, right. Oh, time to experience the reverse Big Bang. Farnsworth is the bad guy, right?
Wait, isn't who's the Nightmare Before Christmas? Finkelstein. Sorry. Yeah.
Finkelstein. Yeah. Farnsworth is the Futurama professor, but who's the bad guy? No, he's not really a bad guy, but he's like the
antagonist?
Yeah. Professor Wernstrom is the antagonist.
Yeah, I should watch that again whenever I get a chance, whenever I can find time. Between the only thing on my TV right now is Ms. Rachel. It's for Hunter and like just nonstop Ms. Rachel.
And I hate television now.
I love her and I hate her at the same time. I've never had so many kids songs stuck in my head. It will drive you crazy. I mean, that's why I'm losing sleep. Like, I'm going to sleep singing Bingo.
Bingo. I wake up in the monkeys. Same letter.
Oh my god. All right, but anyways. Okay. Well, thank you again, Naomi, and another shout out to Pixie. And she actually recommends a good book. So she recommended a book called Classic Candy by Darlene Lacey. And she was inspired to read it based off one of our deep dives on food.
Oh.
Yeah. I tried looking for it. I tried doing either an audiobook or just doing a digital copy through my local library, but it's not in my catalog. Yeah. But it does look really interesting. It's a history on classic candy.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to check that out too.
Yeah, Classic Candy by Darlene Lacey. I tried looking for it on YouTube too, because I know YouTube has like a lot of free audiobooks, but I didn't see it on there.
Yeah. I bet that's gonna be interesting. I do like classic candy. I tell you, I went to see Barbie the other day, and my partner's like, "Oh, what type of candy do you want?" I'm like, "Bunch of Crunch, don't have that." I'm like, "Okay, Milk Duds, don't have that. Twizzlers, don't have
Wait,
that."
at the theater?
Yeah,
They didn't have Milk Duds at the theater?
they didn't have Milk Duds. As far as candy went, they had Red Vines, and we had the discussion last time that I'm a Twizzlers man over Red Vines. And what I had to settle with was the ice cream version of Bunch of Crunch.
So you had to eat that super fast because it's ice cream.
Yeah, because it was melting. Yeah, it was gone before the movie even started. I was never more disappointed with the Keenan selection.
See, that's why I never buy shit there. You sneak it in. Like what we talked about before. What else can you sneak in? If you want to know what that IQ point is, follow or watch shit. Well, what episode was that?
Rob, we've never talked about that.
Oh, I must be looking into the future.
Sure, that's right.
We'll check out our previous episodes on where we talked about sneaking things into a theater.
I'm afraid we're just going to start repeating IQ points and not even realizing that we've researched stuff before.
Yeah, that's why it's nice that we have that little shout out to our own backlog on IQ points. It's very easily searchable on there. So if I ever have that inkling, I just run a search. All right. Well, another thing that we did, the episode. Actually, at this point, it should be available on YouTube. Ryan and I actually tried our fan Rebecca's great-grandmother's brisket recipe. So we are sharing, with her permission, we are sharing that recipe online. So that video should be out right now. You know what? It's in the show notes. Check out the show notes and get that amazing brisket recipe. It was so good.
It was really good.
It's literally...
I ate too much.
It's 2 ingredients. 3 if you count the foil. I mean, if you want to make the gravy too, it's a few more, but it's literally 2 ingredients, and it was incredible.
Although, to be fair, I almost screwed up the whole thing because it says Lipton packets, and I picked up Lipton chicken noodle soup packets, and Rob's like, "I don't think it is supposed to have noodles." And so we had to really reflect on things, and later on the recipe it says Lipton onion soup mix. I'm like, I had no idea Lipton onion soup even existed. It's right there at the store. I just scanned over and went for the chicken noodle soup.
May I remind everyone that we don't have a PhD.
We don't.
Well,
honestly, I don't know why we're allowed in kitchens.
Well, check out that video. It is posted now. And I'm actually pretty particularly proud of how I edited it. So it took a while, but... And that's pretty much it for housekeeping. Anything to add?
I think that's it.
Well, before we get started, if this is your first time listening, if you like true crime, there's a great episode which a true crime incident happened to me. Listen, if anything, it's a great story. Listen to our episode 22, which was season 2, episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency. The first half hour is dedicated to a true crime incident that happened to me. And I bring this up because I do have a short update on this.
Oh.
So, last we checked, we didn't have anything going on. There was the call to the list that she was involved in. But it's actually been... The call of the list and the jury selection was canceled. Don't know why. There was no explanation on the docket sheets, but it just said that they've been canceled.
Suspicious.
Yeah. So she, the defendant, is actually in... let me pull it up. So she filed a motion to file additional pretrial motions. So that's what's happening right now. So that's going to happen in September, towards the end of the month. So I had to look into what this meant. Like I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea what
Uh,
any of this means.
Guessing more time to substantiate her case, or
Yes, and looking
that,
for
that's
So it's basically she is going to be trying to make the trial more advantageous to her.
yeah.
So common pretrial motions include the motion to dismiss, which is an attempt to get the judge to dismiss a charge or the entire case.
Hmm.
Or there is a motion to suppress, which is an attempt to keep certain statements or evidence from being introduced as evidence. So, for example, if the police conducted a search without probable cause, which is in violation of the Fourth Amendment, it may be possible to suppress the evidence found as a result of the search. And the last thing that she could be doing is a motion for change of venue, which may be made for various reasons, including pretrial publicity. If the local news has covered the case a great deal, it may be necessary to move the trial to another venue to protect the defendant's right to an impartial jury.
Hmm.
If I had to guess based off the circumstances, I would say it's the first one, that they're trying to like really push to be a self-defense thing, and they're
Yeah.
motioning to dismiss.
And get it dropped all
Yeah.
together.
Which is really
That
crazy that it's the beginning of September now, and this happened in March. She's been in jail this entire time, which is kind of
didn't you
crazy.
say she had bail too? That what they set her bail at, like
Her,
$1 million or
no, her
something?
bail was denied.
It was denied. That's what it
Yeah, which
was.
is another crazy thing. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, they really think that
Uh,
she like it was like intent.
wow. I was thinking. I just watched the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard documentary
How was
on
it?
Netflix. Um, it's about what you were expecting. Goofiness and media chaos on both sides, and it's a toxic relationship that I think both of them were pretty horrible to each other. But again, I wasn't in the relationship. I what I did note, one thing I picked up was there was I think it was that Johnny Depp wanted to use a character witness, his ex-wife, to say, oh, he's not abusive, he doesn't do these things, and the Amber Heard's lawyer team said you can't use her because that's kind of what they say, hearsay, or uh, basically that character evidence doesn't really apply, so you can't bring her in. But on stand, Amber Heard said something about Johnny Depp abusing his ex-wife, and so as soon as she said that, they were able to pull that interview in because the opponents brought it in by mentioning it on stand.
Mhm.
So I can see, like you said, motion to suppress evidence like that. Maybe say we can't bring in these other uh, testimonies for whatever reason. So that could be too. Maybe they have a character witness saying, "Oh, she was threatening him all day, every day,"
Well, I did
and
see that a handful of people did get subpoenaed.
oh,
Yeah, so there are a
interesting.
bunch of witnesses like out there, and it'll be interesting if I get a subpoena. I didn't even think about that.
Oh man! Oh no!
Fuck. I literally just thought about that. It didn't even occur to me at all. But honestly, I won't have a lot to say.
Yeah,
But
they seem nice. I smiled and waved.
oh god, all right. Let's not put that out in the universe.
Yeah, knock on
Oh shit.
wood.
All right. Well, that's my update.
I guess we could mention with that too that along with no PhDs, we also do not have law degrees. So
I know nothing. I only the extent of my knowledge on the law is from watching Suits.
Suits. I come from I think you know this, a family of lawyers, so I've heard things here and there, but not enough to really know anything. But my big thing was I grew up thinking I never want to be a lawyer because I don't want to have to wear a tie every day to work.
It can be
Like
clip on.
even third grade. Oh man. I had to wear a tie every day to high school, so that was enough for me. I'm done with
Oh yeah.
it.
Oh man. Yeah, it was a few years ago. I purged all my ties, and I didn't even have to. I just went through a tie phase where I was just kind of wearing tie. I was like that douchey guy that just like wore ties at like the club and going bar hopping and things. Just, you know what? Let's just put on a tie.
Suit up,
Yeah, suit
Barney
up.
style, suit up.
That's pretty much where it originated from. All right.
Okay, so
So
into
overall thoughts
Dead
of this
Hooker.
episode?
Um, I have one of my favorite IQ points in here just because I love audio talk.
Ooh.
So that's in here. There's a really interesting, even the title of the episode, Dead Hooker Juxtaposition, and the discussion of being, what's the word, chauvinistic, anti-feminist, got some talks in there, so some interesting stuff. Thought it was funny. I loved Penny's portrayal in this episode. Her the things she did, the characterization, and some of the details made it clear that she is a real friend and she is becoming part of the crowd. And as much as it seems like she's an outsider, she's not an outsider anymore. So
No.
I like a whole lot of it. I don't know if it's my favorite episode of the season, but it is a solid episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It definitely shows a lot more growth within the group and shows like where they're met with kind of like an obstacle in like to kind of throw a kink in their friendship and everything like that. And like it's kind of showing Penny and like what the real friendship is amongst her and the group. I think part of it is like her realizing that she does want to be part of the group. Like this is her circle, and she sees it being threatened. Not that it's partially that she wants the attention, but it's partially like comes from a place of caring, where it's like, hey, you're taking advantage of these people, and like you're just some like outsider taking advantage. And even though she wouldn't admit it, but she's taking advantage of the group too. But at the same time, she actually has a little bit more purity to her,
and she does care. And we've seen in other episodes where she's gotten them hooked on TV shows, and we can see that she's watching their TV shows. I think there's genuine emotions attached to her reasons, and as much as in other episodes it's made it seem kind of like they're pulling her in or they're waiting on her and whatnot, she is invested in this group herself. She doesn't want to leave it, so she's as big a part of the group as they are. So I like it so far.
Yep, good episode.
Yeah.
All right, so this is season 2, episode 19, The Dead Hooker Juxtaposition, aired March 30th, 2009. Written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Stephen Malaro. Directed, as always, by Mark Sandrowski. We open, and Penny has to kill some spiders for the guys, which she doesn't mind, but it would be nice if they would at least try to kill the small ones. And I was going to say, I sympathize with that because I'm the spider and insect killer in my family.
That's apparently what I've become. There was a point where when I was living in the basement when I was in high school, like every now and then I'd feel something tickle my neck and like swipe, and it'd be a giant spider. Not a giant spider, but like that big.
That's pretty big.
And I got freaked out about spiders for a little bit because of that.
Yeah. There's actually a pretty big spider in my house I think it was yesterday. I was doing some chores, and then all of a sudden I hear a scream, and it's my wife, and she was like, it was so big that it was collecting, like, carrying dust through it. She just thought it was like this dust blowing or something like that, or moving around, and then she noticed that it had legs, so I had to like run to grab the vacuum because it was
smiling at her. Hello.
I was like, keep eyes on it. And I just grabbed the vacuum and just like almost like slide into it and just like John Wick style.
I'm one of those guys, for smaller spiders, I try to pick them up and put them outside, get a hanky or a napkin and pick them up, put them outside. Because my thought is I would rather deal with spiders than mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes. So spiders help get rid of mosquitoes, and I have a lot of mosquitoes.
Mm.
But it's like 2 weeks ago, my dad came over to let my dog out and left my back door wide open.
And mosquitoes
And
came in.
not that I noticed, but spiders did. And there was one that it was probably like, it wasn't a daddy long legs though, but if it was stretched out, it was like that big. It looked like a maybe a wolf spider.
Yeah.
Brown recluses don't get that big, so it definitely wasn't that, but it wasn't a daddy long legs, so something like wolf spider. And
I've been fortunate enough to not encounter a wolf spider or a brown recluse, because like growing up in Washington, they're pretty native there.
I used to, when I was in Kansas, we used to catch the wolf spiders and keep them as pets.
Ugh.
Like I remember one summer, something about the water, between the water and we kept our crushed cans out in the garage. There was an uptake in crickets one year because it had rained a lot. And with the uptake of crickets and the sugar of the spilt soda, the spiders had plenty of food to grow. And we got wolf spiders that were huge. And we took some from to school and put them in terrariums. And the thing is, spiders don't really eat when you keep them in captivity usually. So they ended up dying of starvation. But
wait, really?
Yeah.
You'd think
apparently that's a thing.
So
yeah,
if they don't have the chase and the thrill of the chase, they don't want to eat.
There's no point in living.
Oh, why?
It's interesting. But anyways, I'm closing the patio door thinking like this has been open for like 5 hours. I hope nobody's in here. And my partner screams, Kelsey screams, and my first thought is a freaking possum or raccoons made it inside because I've seen possums in my backyard. And I'm like, what, where is it? And I'm like, do I have to get a broom? And she's like, there's a spider on the wall. And I'm like, okay, that's too big for me to pick up and take outside. So it had to die. Get a paper towel and it's like, bam, bam.
In my house.
But I felt guilty about it.
In my house, everything dies and I feel no guilt. Everything dies.
Everything dies.
Oh my God. So we actually have a lot of houseflies. Like, I don't know why, but it's just something about this area. I don't know what it is, but we always, like in the summertime, we always get these houseflies. Yeah. I got this cheap copy from Half Price Books of Game of Thrones. And that's my fly killer. So you kill the fly and then you rip off the page because it has the guts all over it. So I'm like 20 pages into it, let's just say.
Should send a picture to George R. Martin and say
thanks for making fatty books. BT Dubs, when's the next one coming out?
When's it coming out? I have more flies to kill.
All right. Well, moving on. I noticed that Sheldon is wearing that green shirt that I like, the Riddler Batman one, and Howard is head to toe in blue, almost too much blue. And Sheldon has much bigger problems than the spider. His world is ending. They steamed his dumplings. Which, if you order dumplings, like, well, no, steamed has a soft spot in my heart. I do like steamed dumplings. I like fried.
I was gonna look into this more, but I'm like, this is up Rob's alley. What's the difference between like fried, steamed, or can you bake them?
You could, but that's kind of pointless. I mean, you'd want to oil it, so it's kind of like air frying, but it won't be as crispy. So, man, so much to uncover. I wasn't expecting. Like steaming is just like you literally just steam it, so it's more of just soft and everything like that. So it's more
soft,
doughy, tender, and everything like that. And then there's complete deep frying, which you just throw into a deep fryer, completely submerged, where it's just nice and crispy. That's my favorite. But a lot of restaurants don't really do that. They do like that steam, or that they call it frying, but it's more like pan frying, where there's
Yeah.
oil on the bottom, but then you cover it, so it kind of steams on the top and then it fries on the bottom.
Oh.
So you kind of get like a little bit of both worlds, where it's like kind of crunchy on the bottom and doughy on the top. That's pretty
I was
solid
gonna
too.
say,
That's my wife's favorite.
I can't remember having a completely fried dumpling. That it's usually that kind of doughy,
Yeah.
really bright white
Yeah, a lot of restaurants
texture.
don't do that. It's hard to find it like at a restaurant like that, but like at home or like when I'm at work or something like that, fuck yeah.
That's the way to go.
Fuck yeah.
I like the crunch.
Yeah. Oh man. Dumplings, anything. Any dumpling. Anything encased in dough is amazing.
Anything fried.
All that too. Well, they're eating Chinese food, and it got me wondering if it was from the Golden Dragon. Because as mentioned in a previous episode, the cushion saturation, their normal place, the Szechuan Palace, closed. So it just got me thinking.
And he bought a bunch of plates and packages
Yeah.
to rebrand it.
Well, now that Sheldon knows, is all that to waste?
Yeah.
Well, Howard chimes in that Penny is looking particularly ravishing today. And it's funny that he makes this comment after the events that happens in a previous episode where Penny punches him in the face.
Yeah, at least he's dedicated. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, then again, at the end of the episode, he did predict that he would get some pity sex, that he was on the trajectory of pity sex.
That's true.
So maybe that's why he's trying again. But Penny... sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, at the end of this episode, there's they call back to this, and he makes another comment, and I'm going to say something about that, because I think it illustrates his true character, that he makes these comments, but he doesn't actually mean... Yeah, his other comment shows that he doesn't really mean this with ill intent.
It's almost like he just thinks that that's how you get someone.
Yeah, and when they respond out of hand, he does realize, like, something's wrong here.
Wait, this isn't flirting?
This isn't right. So, yeah, and it's kind of interesting after the punch in the face. He didn't really learn his lesson.
He didn't learn anything. Well, Penny says, not with 1,000 condoms. So there's a number.
There's a number.
Well, Penny wants to change the topic, and she mentions that there's going to be a new neighbor upstairs in 5A. And not knowing how Sheldon would react, the guys try to shush her because they know exactly how Sheldon is going to be. And apparently, you need to break bad news to Sheldon very slowly. Like putting a new fish in the aquarium. And Sheldon starts freaking out because he doesn't like change. And I love the way that he says, the horror.
So I have an IQ point there, but first with the fish, I want to say that is absolutely true, that I killed... I ever tell you in high school I had piranha?
No.
Yeah, I had 3 piranhas. Piranha fish? I don't know what the plural is.
Piranha baby shark.
Baby shark, dude. And I felt bad. I was probably the worst fish owner.
Oh, did you let it starve?
No.
Did you feed it your cat?
Yeah. Actually, it's like, okay, so they were doing well for like a year, except I had 2 females, and females fight, and then I had 1 male, and the male was kind of doing his own thing. And one of the females ate the other female's eye. And so we called the one missing the eye lefty, or left eye, or one eye sometimes. And so like one time I went to a friend's house for an evening, and my parents had a party. No idea what happened during that party, but something happened with my fish. And after that, they hid behind rocks the whole time for the rest of their lives. So I don't know what my parents tried to feed them or what, but then a couple months later, a year later, I cleaned their aquarium, and I changed the water and forgot to acclimate them and put them in, and the male and the female with 2 eyes died. And of course, one eye probably because she only had one eye and she was just like, I'm not going to let go, was tough enough. And I put her back and acclimated her. And she did survive and spent the rest of her days alone eating little feeder goldfish. Pretty happy hiding behind a rock. And then she died of old age like a couple years later. So, but yeah, I did lose 2 fish that way. It was very tragic and I felt bad about myself.
Yeah, we had goldfish growing up, and yeah, they don't live very long.
It was nice because, like, for Christmas, I would go out and get them like fancy goldfish, like the $5
Oh,
ones.
wow.
Like, you're gonna eat good tonight. Merry Christmas, babies.
All right, so what's your IQ point?
IQ point. The way he says the horror, that this is from something, and that it's you know, I knew it was from something. What I thought it was from was not correct, but what really got me was I know it from Rugrats.
Really?
Because
Rugrats?
yeah, in an episode where they are going to a wedding, Tommy asks what happened, and Chucky goes, "The horror, the horror." Flashing back to the horror, but in this case it was the dance the horror because it was Jewish wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this actually from Ray Butterworth on Cora, I think this is the most clear specific version I could find. In 1899, Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness, which I embarrassingly have not read, the horror is a famous like last line. And then in 1925, T.S. Eliot wrote a poem called The Hollow Man. I do remember reading this where he says the horror as well. And then in 1979, Francis Ford Coppola's film Apocalypse Now, which I haven't seen that. Apparently a character who was inspired by the character in Conrad's novel recites Eliot's poem and says the horror. And the way they say it, the horror, is from these accounts. So there's some history there, and it is more than just a goofy way of saying it that, yeah, it's from some literature and film.
Yeah, I haven't seen or read any of those, so that's why I didn't catch it. But I did catch the other one that's coming up.
But yeah, we gotta check out Chucky saying it because that's what I remember mostly from the horror.
Yeah, I love Rugrats.
Yeah.
And then I watched All Grown Up too.
I watched most of it, but like it cuts off. Like it doesn't have an ending, does it?
I didn't watch that many episodes. I don't know.
Oh, I thought they canceled it. I'm like, if they're older, I want an actual ending. I don't know.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Well, we find out that Sheldon didn't even know the neighbors upstairs, and it was perfect. No awkward hellos, no noise upstairs. They might as well have been a family of cats. Well, Penny tries to ease his comfort by saying the new neighbor could be just as great, but Sheldon, always the pessimist, doesn't believe her. So I love this, that Penny just says, fuck it. Just like, you know what, you're right. I can't know. You know what, it could be an opera singer. It could be the Casa Stomp. It could be a tap dancing pirate with a wooden leg. And I just love that she's just like, you know what? I tried to make it better, and look how that went.
Yeah, I have to say, I get 1 point for being Sheldon here, liking the nice, quiet neighbors. But more than that, when he said no awkward hellos, you don't know how much that means to me. That I don't. I've had to practice my hellos, especially like during COVID when people started walking their dogs more around the neighborhood. Like, I'm like, hello, hi, how's it going? Like, these are things I have to look in the mirror and actually practice because I like don't know how to process awkward hellos. So,
like you don't really think about it until you're like a homeowner and you're in a neighborhood and it's like, oh, I have to be nice to people. I have to like. I might be setting roots here. Don't be an asshole. When do I wave? When do I say hello? When do I stop and have a conversation? Either way, I don't want any of it.
Oh, exactly. I don't want it. Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the neighbor always says, sure is a hot one. Have you seen that one episode?
I think so.
And that's all he says every day. And Dennis finally like snaps and can't take it anymore. Sure is a hot one.
It's raining right now, motherfucker. Well, then Raj whispers to Howard, and he has a great idea that Howard should take the unit, which freaks Penny out. The horror.
The horror.
And now we jump to the next scene where we are outside Howard's house, and the guys are explaining moving etiquette to Sheldon, and he's in utter disbelief. Which, if you really think about it, it's kind of crazy. It's like, really? You only get a pizza for like an entire day of hard labor?
Yeah.
But that's what you do when you're a friend. And then Raj jokes around that he really gets a choice between a mountain bike or a PS3.
I loved Raj saying, no, you get a mountain bike or a PS3. He's like, there, that makes sense.
I knew it.
Well, I'm going to get the PS3.
Who would want a mountain bike? Well, then we hear Howard's conversation with his mom, and his mom really wants him to move out. But Howard twists it around as if she wants him to stay. And I think this was mentioned in the past, but she associates Olive Garden with being a fancy restaurant. And I love that.
Yeah.
What is a fancy restaurant? This isn't the Olive Garden.
I wanted to point out, too, that as soon as we get to her house, and hear her voice, I start thinking of the brisket we made. So it's like what's the word? Sensation when I watch it. Like, brisket.
I will say, like, I forgot to mention this earlier, but my wife is actually a very tough food critic. Very tough. It's very hard to please her when it comes to food. She loved this brisket.
She did?
Yeah. I brought her that piece. We heated it up lightly in the microwave, and then she tried it, and she was like, holy shit, this is amazing. So we actually already talked about it. That's going to be our Thanksgiving meal.
Nice.
Because she doesn't like turkey, and I love turkey, but I can't eat a whole turkey myself, and I'm not just going to buy a turkey breast, because like the magic is the dark and the white meat. It's like everything. So, and I can't do it myself. So it's like, you know what? Let's just do a brisket then.
Yeah.
So thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Or thank you, Sandy, her great-grandmother, which I'm guessing is the name of her great-grandmother, because that was on the top of the recipe. So thank you, Sandy.
It's the person she hit over the head and took the recipe from.
So that's where you got it. No, sneaky. Well, all right. Well, the guys get the picture and they leave. Leonard calls Penny to have her take her head out of the oven, which I thought was funny.
I'm kind of confused, though, because if they were there to help him move, it seems like he would have signed the lease already. And it becomes clear that he wasn't like that. He was ready to move, but he didn't sign the lease. Or like, do we expect that he got out of the lease? Like, I was kind of confused.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Am I wrong with the timeline? Like, you usually sign the lease, and then
you have to be. Yeah, you wouldn't move in then sign it. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be pretty firmly moving out.
That's actually a pretty long process too, to fill out the application, to go through a background check.
Yeah.
All this like things and everything. A lot of paperwork to sign, only to back out last minute.
So I thought this was funny, but it was kind of something didn't make sense. It was a good joke, but logically
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So that's my little tidbit for that.
Well, the guys go back to the apartments where they see a bunch of movers with boxes. And Sheldon notices all the boxes and he's like, the new ones. They're here. Which is a Poltergeist reference.
Poltergeist.
Yep. Well, Sheldon inappropriately starts shaking boxes, looking for musical instruments. And Leonard says, it says kitchen on the box. And Sheldon, the best logic ever, do cocaine smugglers write cocaine on the box?
It's got a point.
Great point. And now we meet Alicia, played by Valerie Aslin. And I honestly haven't seen her anywhere else. I looked up her IMDb, and I don't want to be an asshole when I say this, but it didn't look very impressive.
She must be here doing, some small things. But
It's just a series of small parts.
I saw that she was in Tropic Thunder, and I've seen that. I don't remember her in it, but
I don't remember her in that either.
I'd watch it again just to see if she was in it,
Yeah.
and like where she was and what's going on.
How great is Tropic Thunder?
It was a funny movie.
Fucking awesome was that?
It's like so horribly offensive, but like it's so offensive that I feel like it works.
If anybody wants to see Iron Man in blackface,
yeah,
I can't believe they did it at that point in time, and they still found a way to get away with it. Because I think they made I think it was just that they announced that it was inappropriate. Like,
yeah, like they straight
controversial
up, like, the
surgery.
joke is that it's bad.
And he does it so well, though. Oh, fuck. Watch Tropic Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Leonard is instantly smitten, and Sheldon begins to interrogate her. And I wrote down all the questions that he asked her. He asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how light of foot would you describe yourself? With 1 being not cat-like at all, and 10 being freakishly feline. And then he asks, are you now, or have you ever been a salsa, Irish folk, or breakdancer? And then he asks the inappropriate question, are you fertile?
Are you fertile?
But he actually means it to be more innocent. That he wants to know if he should worry about crying babies in the near future.
Plans on having children soon.
Yeah.
I almost gave myself a point because when he says like on a 1 to 10 scale, not cat-like at all, or what's he saying?
Freakishly feline.
She goes, freakishly feline, and he asks, is that your answer, or did you misunderstand the question? I could see me saying that, but I would say it sarcastically, and I don't think he was saying it sarcastically.
No, so he was not.
I could not award the point.
It could go either way. I say just do it.
Just do it? Okay.
Do it. It gets a point.
We get it. 1 point, Sheldon. 2. Is that your answer? Or did you misunderstand the question?
Well, then Sheldon asks the final question, area rugs, pro or con? Which she is pro, so he welcomes her to the building. She passed the test.
To the building.
And now the next scene, we're at the stairs, and Leonard is helping Alicia move in, and he's honored. It is an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity. And enter Penny, in quote, looking sloppy, which I actually analyzed what she was wearing, and it was kind of weird.
She had like jogging shorts over sweatpants.
It was like
right?
flannel shorts over sweat. Who does that?
Yeah, that was like you only need one or the other.
I could definitely see shorts over like yoga pants or something like that. Yeah. But like not sweatpants like that. That was weird.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she was just really cold. I don't know.
And short flannel shorts are going to keep you warm, at least in that area.
That's an important area if you're going to keep warm somewhere.
Well, Sheldon addresses the pros of Alicia. Alicia's non-musical, childless, and pro-rug. But she still is on probation, of course. And Alicia comments on Penny's shirt, and Penny tries to play it off that she's going jogging. And Sheldon instantly calls her out that she doesn't go jogging, not understanding sarcasm. And Alicia puts on a bit of a show for Leonard, getting a little flirty and calling him a player. And then you can instantly tell that Penny doesn't like Alicia.
Yeah.
A little bit of jealousy. Like, she's like the new, like, not to objectify women, but like when the new girl comes, she's like the new toy, in quote.
My sister dated a guy when I was in high school. I can't remember his name. But he was basically like the male equivalent of Alicia. Everything was perfect. He could cook like anything from scratch. He started a business when he was a teenager. He was teaching at Harvard Law School or something. And it's just like incredible stuff, and everything Like I'd say he always was one up. And so I remember after he left, I go, fuck that guy.
I had a similar situation at one of my old jobs. He's okay. He's my friend now, and we still keep in touch. We actually work together still, but it was funny because I was told that I was getting a new boss at one of my old jobs, and then I was like, "Ugh, what the fuck? Why wasn't I? Why didn't I get the promotion? Who is this fucking guy?" And then this fucking like model of a man comes in, a true Ken doll, and I was like, and he just walks in, and I was just like, hi. even I was, all the girls were like instantly smitten, and honestly he was so good looking. I was like, even I was a little smitten. I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh, holy shit.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, hi. And yeah, he actually works with this in the same company as me. He moved with me. Yeah. Yeah, good guy. I still like him. Don't worry. All right. Well, and then Penny starts mimicking her and like mocking her and everything. Like, I'm just like a thought today. And Sheldon points it out, and then he imitates Admiral Akbar from Star Wars, if anyone's interested. Which is a great meme. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yep.
And I give myself a point for being like Sheldon here, because I have been known to mimic things on TV and say them repeatedly and like close doors and be by myself, and you can still hear me saying it over and over again. And it pisses my girlfriend off. She's like, stop saying it.
So what's on your mind right now?
I'll have to think about it. I can't remember.
I know, it just comes so natural. You don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, for some reason the other day it just got into my head. But not Lindsay Lohan. Who? Hilary Duff. She has a song from in her movie. It's 10 years old now. The song's like, "Why Not Do a Crazy Dance?" And I had that in my head, and I kept like saying it, mimicking it. And not even that I dislike the song, it's just I've been saying it.
It's just stuck in your head.
Yeah, after half an hour of saying that one line, trying to mimic it more and more, yeah, Kelsey was not happy. She's like, you're ruining it for me! So 1 point for being like Sheldon, repeating that mimicking to annoying amounts. It's a trap.
It's a trap. Well, now we shift to the apartment where Sheldon is writing imaginary equations in the air. Enter Penny, and he notices that she finally did her laundry, but she only sort of did. It was a laugh out loud moment that she bought new clothes.
I started bought new clothes, which I can't. I can't do that. I can't. I have to wash clothes before I wear them. I feel weird about it. So.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Honestly, I used to not be like that. Whenever I bought clothes, I always thought to myself, well, it's new. So, but then again, after meeting my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she would always wash things. I was like, what's the point? It's new. And she's like, you don't know who wore these. You don't know how long it's been sitting on shelves.
You don't know what boxes it was in.
Yeah. So it's like, you wash it. And then it just kind of clicked in. And now I wash every new thing. So yeah, you'd think that she would want to wash it.
I remember one time I was at a horror convention with some friends, and we won shirts as a promotion for a movie, and one of my friends was going to wear it to like a one day. And I go, you can't wear that without washing. And she's like, why not? I go, I can't remember. I'm like, it smells kind of grody, like a dead corpse. And she smells it, and she goes, it does smell kind of bad. And I felt bad because I ruined it for her, but at the same time, it's like,
you helped her in the long run.
I helped her, right? I was a dick, but I was a helpful dick.
It unlocked a part of her brain. She's one step closer to having a PhD.
Yeah. It does smell.
Well, Penny is looking for Leonard because he was supposed to help set up her printer. But he's at Alicia's. She scoffs.
Setting up the stereo.
Yep. She scoffs that this is typical. And that just flies over Sheldon's head because he is being very literal, and this is the most atypical thing ever. Because they just met Alicia, and they've never visited the neighbors before that apartment, so how is this typical?
I felt that was a little forced on his part, because he says, where was it? Was it futile? Not futile. Something faulty flirting or something. I can't remember what it was, but he accepted that when Leonard meets a girl, he flirts and does a horrible job. And so he understands there is a typical reaction of Leonard on meeting a new girl and trying to interact with her. And if he was able to say that about the flirting, I was like, he probably would know that that's where Leonard would be spending his time as typical flirting behavior.
Yeah, unless he just didn't think about that side of it. It's more of the location.
That could be.
Yeah.
And just the new addition to the building. I don't know. I'm probably nitpicking there, but I was like, but I see that it's typical. I wish I remember what he said about the flirting.
Yeah, I don't remember that part either. If that concludes your faltering attempt to mate. Okay, so yeah, so he did.
So I don't know what made me think it was flirting, but I think that might be what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I guess he didn't say it as typical. I think he just knows when he's trying to flirt.
But that would be typical, is typical attempts to flirt.
I'm going to say you're nitpicking.
Fair enough. I did that, like that faltering attempt to mate.
Just calling it out. Imagine if we were on the town and I was flirting and you just called me out. Are you done flirting?
Are you done flirting? Failing at flirting?
Stop. Now that you're done failing at flirting, let's move on. Well, now we're at Alicia's apartment and all the guys are fawning over her, and enter Penny, looking hot as fuck, by the way.
Yeah.
With a housewarming gift, tries to play it off looking like a slob. And she's wearing the penny blossom.
Yes.
And we find out that Alicia is an actor as well. But then she says that she's been out there for 3 months and all she's gotten is a couple of national commercials and a reoccurring thing on a soap. She's Penny 2.0.
Exactly.
And then Leonard comes in and asks what default she would like for her DVDs. 5.1 Dolby versus DTS. And then she gets flirty with him and says that he can make the choice. And I know you're the audio guy.
One quick IQ and then the audio IQ that I would say is a full IQ. But when she says that she has the best looking tech support ever, Howard says, "Oh, Pish, Posh." And then Raj asks him, like whispers, "What does that mean?" He goes, "It means shucks, right?"
Yeah.
And this was weird to me because I didn't think these two words were the same thing. And to me, like, they're not.
Yeah, I thought Pish Posh would meant like brush it aside.
Yeah,
like, oh, that's
kind of, this is silly.
Yeah, like we're done with your silliness. Pish Posh.
But according to Cambridge Dictionary, shucks means expression of modesty, embarrassment, disapproval, or anger. And I would say as angry as it could be, it's still kind of like, shucks. It's that disappointment, anger. Pish Posh, on the other hand, is an expressment of disagreement or a saying of nonsense. And so I'm guessing that in the embarrassment and disagreement of nonsense, there's some inner connection there. But to me, Pish Posh is still more about the nonsense, and shucks is more about the oh darn or modesty, like and then. But maybe there's some connection there. But I did look that up. But the audio.
Oh,
this
side
is
note. You know who says Pish Posh a lot?
Who?
Mr. Burns. In Simpsons, he actually says Pish.
Yeah.
It just dawned on me. It's like, because I know Pish Posh, but it was racking my brain of like, how do I know that term? And it's from Simpsons because Mr. Burns says it all the time.
That's what got me with the horror. I'm like, the horror. Where do I know that from? The horror. The horror.
All right, sorry.
Weird details that stick in our heads, right?
I know. All right. Back to
All right.
audio.
So we have to know that this was in 2009, right?
Mhm.
2009, we have the release of Blu-ray and HD DVDs, so things were a little bit different with those. However, DVDs were still the primary system of watching movies. And what we can understand is, and I got most of this information from whathifi.com, but also know quite a bit of it as well. Just because the DTS and Dolby Digital are a ongoing battle. It's I don't know, like Mac and PC, or the big one. I guess it's Dolby as well, but HDR versus Dolby Vision. That's like the newest visual one, but they are technologies for getting data out, and Dolby Vision's visual, but Dolby and DTS are audio. And basically, when it comes to getting the audio to the consumer, the audience, especially with DVDs, they didn't have the ability to put the full soundtrack on there. And even if they did, if they put it in a digital encoding, a file that could be read, Dolby Digital and DTS were like the major companies that made files that could be read at home or by digital technologies. Apparently, Dolby Digital's first film to be released with it was Batman Returns in 1992. DTS was their competition that got going, and they were around 1993. I have written here, and their big break, they started up in 1993. That's what it was. Their big break was the movie Jurassic Park. And so these big blockbusters will come out with different audio encodings, DTS or Dolby Digital, based on what the director thinks is better. And basically, it's kind of like using WAV file versus FLAC or ALAC. It's just MP3 versus, WAV is lossless, but um, what's Apple's form of MP3? Or we could say, if you are into digital or ebooks, PDF versus EPUB or Mobi, or with pictures, image versus JPEG, or what's the other one? BP
GIF.
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 GIF. So they're just file types, really.
Yeah.
And technically, according to this, with DVDs, which had limited space, they had to compress the audio. What you would get was DTS had a higher bit rate, and with DVDs, they had DTS had a bit rate of, where did I put it? 1.5 megabytes per second, I believe it was. And yeah, 1.5 megabytes per second, whereas Dolby Digital had a bit rate of 448 kilobytes per second. And to put these things into comparison, is a high quality MP3 is compressed to 320, but that's only two speakers. Dolby and DTS have 5.1 speakers to compress into 1.5 megabytes or 448. Now, Dolby argues that their technology is superior and they don't need as much room to create better files. In my personal opinion, my ear, from what I've heard, when I have an actual true DTS disc on a DTS receiver, I think that sounds better. But hearing is very subjective. Everybody has different ears. So, but I do agree with what Leonard says, that DTS has a higher bit rate and therefore has more lows, more sub. Now, will her speakers play that? I don't know, but there's arguable reason to like the DTS better, and Dolby claims that they have just better technology, which makes them better. But how do we tell that? That's anyways. This is all kind of a moot point to some degree, because with Blu-ray, they introduced Dolby True HD and DTS HD Master, which are lossless files. So we get the best bit rate for both of them, the full soundtrack, just different encodings, and that again becomes subjective which one has the better technology for the encoding, and if that even makes a difference. And now what we're getting is a new step, and I don't know where this is going, but it's a huge conversation. We're getting DTS:X and Dolby Atmos. Have you heard of Atmos?
I did a little bit of research. It seems to be like the more upgraded version when it gets more speakers.
Yeah,
When it
it's
gets to
trying
when it gets to like that third digit, or in the
the
dot, like it's the 5.1 then dot something else, because it's the
having the ceiling
overhead. Yeah.
speakers. Although I feel like they're kind of keeping this from consumers and keeping it really confusing, because you can look at like Spotify, I believe, Amazon, or Apple Music, and just for stereo headphones, it will say Dolby Atmos, and that's because the music is trying to process instrument by instrument and object by object to give it like a fuller soundscape. Problem is, just because it's Dolby Atmos doesn't mean it's full quality, lossless music. And so just because it sounds like it's fuller doesn't mean it's better quality. And then you have to make the decision. Do you want it to sound fuller like you're in the room? Or do you want the sound to be both the high ends and the low ends and getting the full picture of the music? So it gets pretty complicated. Supposedly, with ultra high def discs, you get lossless. So it should be pretty much the same. It's just how it articulates it a little bit is different, which again is going to be subjective. I would say the big problem now is with digital downloads of films. They'll say Dolby Atmos, but you have no idea of what quality that's going to be. That it could be horrible quality. It might sound like there's bullets going overhead, but the sound of the bullets might sound like garbage. So it's just a lot of complications, and not enough people care about audio to really hone down on it or make like specifications. So yeah, in my theory, I think DTS is better, but we are getting to a point with actual physical discs that no matter what you go with, it's going to sound great. It's just those digital downloads are questionable.
That's kind of what I found too. I did a little bit of research on this too, and it's like you said, like Dolby versus DTS is very subjective. Like some
Yeah,
people like swear by DTS, but then another group swears by Dolby and everything like that. So it's kind of, honestly, like it's like you said, like we're at a point with technology. It may have been different in 2009, but right now you'd
yeah,
be great. You're in great hands with either one.
yeah.
But I have a dumb question to ask really quick. When you
Sure.
say lossless, I don't know what that means.
All right, so there's lossy and lossless, and the notion is lossless is like the complete file with all the information. Lossy is when it is downsized. So you can think of an image when you're sending an image and it says, do you want the full quality? Do you want high quality, medium quality, or low quality? Have you ever gotten that message on your iPhone?
Yeah.
Um, Lossy would be going with like the basically downsizing at all is called lossy, because it's taking part of the information and deleting it to make it a smaller file. And so with an audio file, there might be 100 megabytes of information. And if you make it an MP3, it's going to delete some of that here and there to make that file 5 megabytes. It's a lot smaller, but to get that, they delete a lot of information. Some people say what they delete, you'll never hear or even notice is gone. And some people say you can hear it, especially with better equipment. And then my position is I'm paying for the file. I want the whole file. And yeah,
So lossless is attaining that full file,
the full
but
file,
it would be
yeah.
a larger file then.
It's much larger, which is why you can't have it on DVD, because Blu-ray is so much bigger, so much more data can go onto Blu-ray.
Okay. Got it. I makes sense.
Makes sense. And I think that's kind of the argument now with digital downloads is having the lossless audio is such a large file, they can't stream it.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, so at least that. Maybe things are different now, but I mean, in the last 5 years, the internet's gotten a lot faster. Our bandwidths, right? So
There, it's like you got me thinking of like there is, it is almost like a forgotten or unappreciated art, like sound quality. Like
mhm.
people take it for granted. I feel like nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, and we're so used to listening to really downsized files with MP3s. I look at some of the MP3s I got when MP3s first came out, and I think I said a high quality one is 320 kilobytes per second bitrate, and I have ones that are like 100, 128 kilobytes per second, and they sound like garbage. There's like scratching in them and stuff. It's very, very evident, and I was just so used to them, and I had cheap headphones at that time because I was in high school. But as my headphones have gotten better and I've been able to access better quality files, like I'm like, why would I ever want to go back? And even my girlfriend, her opinion is I don't really care about audio, but I do hear a difference when I play like a ultra high def Blu-ray versus DVD. And she's like, why would you even bother playing them back to back? I'm like, because I love the audio.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays more people care about the visual, like more like
Yeah.
the HD and everything like that, and the special effects and everything like that. But like, sound makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Like to really fully immerse you and to get that subwoofer to kind of create the vibrations and everything like it. It is an experience.
I'm now testing out different. So there's like planar headphones and speakers, like the typical headphones and speakers that we have. Or what is it? There's the typical ones. I get them confused. I'm still learning about this, but there's like magnetic ones that apparently handle bass a little bit differently. And so the bass is like nice and tight, but it doesn't go as low. But when you're listening to it, like all the higher instruments, like you know, flutes and violins and bells and harps, like they're all crystal clear. And it's like, wow, I didn't even know these instruments were in here. But the bass is like completely lacking. So
give and take, balance,
give and take,
like the Force.
Right? I love talking about audio, but that was my IQ point, and I thank you all for bearing with me through my.
Well, hopefully everybody learns something, and if you want to create your own home theater, these are the kind of things that you want to know.
Very true. And you get the question too: would you rather have a like 5.1 sound system, 5 speakers around you, or we have a friend? And I think you saw him. Our friend Corey has 2 very nice speakers, but he only has 2. So all of his movies plays with stereo, but those speakers are the quality of like 5 pretty good speakers. Like, I'm
shocked that he wouldn't want to invest with his like living room and everything like that, with like the high ceilings and everything like that. Like he kind of needs it.
He might try to, he said, but I think part of it is that he lives in kind of like, or his living room is an open space with the kitchen, and trying to get the surround sound effect in that big of open and awkward of a space is pretty difficult compared to just like a square box room.
Trying to find the acoustics in that large environment is going to be more challenging.
So he just wanted 2 very nice loudspeakers to fill up the room with sound. And he got that. They are impressive.
Shout out to Corey. What's up, man?
Shout out to Corey.
All right. Anything else on DTS or Dolby?
That's all.
Well, now we get into the awkward joke that Penny tells. She tries to recapture everyone, and she gives a joke, and I love the way that when she looks at Alicia, like, you wouldn't get it. It's about quantum mechanics.
Well, I love at the end when she goes, she's like, I don't even know if I get it.
I love that part. Well, just for the audience, I wrote down the entire joke for your listening pleasure. So, this physicist goes into an ice cream parlor every week and orders an ice cream sundae for himself, and then he offers one to the empty stool sitting next to him. This goes on for a while until the owner finally asks him what he's doing. The man says, well, I'm a physicist, and quantum mechanics teaches us that it is possible for the matter above this stool to spontaneously turn into a beautiful woman who might accept my offer and fall in love with me. The owner then says, well, lots of single, beautiful women come in here every day. Why don't you buy an ice cream for one of them and they might fall in love with you? And the physicist says, yeah, but what are the odds of that happening?
And I like the guys just look at her like,
just kind of horror struck.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man? Great joke.
And I like that it could be mixed. It could. I'm guessing the original probably has him walking into a bar and buying a beer for himself and a beer for the next scene. But they've downed it to Sundays, and it's kind of cool how jokes can be redefined. Which reminds me, we still need to watch the documentary, The Aristocrats.
Oh yeah,
right. And how one joke can have so many different versions. It's amazing.
Well, Leonard says that he'll set up Alicia's printer, and then Penny asks about hers, and Leonard just kind of snaps at her to like, stop bugging me.
Stop nagging
me. Yep, the guys are really into their new toy. And now we transition to the apartment, where Penny enters and collapses defeated on the couch. And a snarky Sheldon understands sarcasm. It's like, who is it? Oh, hello, Penny. It's open. Come on in. Sarcasm.
And I like this because it's callback because she came in earlier and she did knock and she let him in. So you can tell her frustration or exacerbation, like I'm done with this, because she does forfeit that protocol and just comes in and but he's still there, like knocking. Come on in.
And that's how comfortable she is with the group too.
Yeah, especially Sheldon of all of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Sheldon is starting to get upset because he could hear them stomping around, and then he tells Penny a wonderful fun fact about bees. And I love her reaction to this because she thinks that he's making a metaphor with the situation between her and Alicia. But the innocence in his face when he's like, I'm just talking about bees.
I'm watching it on the Discovery Channel right
what
now.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking?
And I did a little bit of research on this.
I did too. I want to see what you have. Right. I talked a lot on Dolby and DTS.
So here's the next IQ point. Would there be a battle of the queens? So I found this on beekeepingtrove.com. And yes, everything that he says is true, but there's a little bit more to it than that. So I was wondering, why would there be a second queen? Because I don't know enough about bees or anything like that. Like, I know that there's one queen bee, but how would a second bee be introduced? So that's kind of where I wanted to do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
So why would there be a second queen? I thought. So I originally thought, like, is this a lion thing where when one lion tries to overthrow the male, like one queen from another hive tries to like infiltrate?
That's kind of what I was thinking at first too. Like,
yeah,
queen bee landing. This is my hive now, bitch.
Yeah. And I was like, again, we don't have PhDs. Well, apparently, the worker bees start to notice when the queen is not performing. The queen's duty is to lay fertilized eggs, but as she ages, her abilities diminish. Her, in quote, footprint pheromones also weaken as she gets older. This pheromone is spread throughout the entire hive, so the worker bees know she's still active and present. When the worker bees start to notice this decline in performance, they plan to supersede her. It's almost kind of like a coup. Mm-hmm. Because they know the hive's livelihood is at stake.
You're weak. Time to get out.
Yeah. The bees will begin to use one or more of her fertilized eggs and build queen cells. The worker bees will continue to feed the queen bee royal jelly for about 8 to 9 days before the queen cell is sealed for a new queen to hatch. Then about a week later, the queen bee will hatch from her cell. And that at this point, the showdown begins. So if the first queen realizes this is happening, that queen can actually go to that cell and kill the queen. So if she feels threatened and she knows, like, oh my god, a coup is starting, I'm going to go kill that queen before anything happens. And it's actually not that out of the ordinary for a hive to have two queens. This occurs when a supersedure cell hatches while the original queen is still alive. The virgin daughter will hatch, mate with her worker bees, and lay eggs alongside her mother, which is the older queen. This is, however, a temporary situation, but it can go on for weeks or even months. According to recent research, if the worker bees decide that the two queens should temporarily live in the same hive, they actually make sure that the queens don't kill each other. They actually separate them to different locations in the hive. And sometimes there is no showdown. So sometimes when a new queen lays enough eggs, the worker bees will turn on the old queen and kill her. So of course, they will decide to keep the old queen if the new queen isn't performing very well. So pretty much it's all about efficiency. So whichever queen is performing the best, that's who they decide is going to be their leader.
Makes sense.
Yep. And there is one last scenario. The last scenario is if the old queen is leaving the hive. So once they have the Battle of the Queens, the older queen can sometimes decide to leave. And this is what's called swarming. She takes a handful of her own worker bees, and they leave, and they create a new hive. And that's it.
I didn't realize that's what a swarm was until I did this research. I think of swarm of bees as just a big group of bees, but technically swarming is the branching off to make two colonies, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, I think I found the same information that sometimes the reason two queens can get created is not necessarily because one is dying, but because the swarm process has started and then bad weather hits. And the bad weather has kept them from branching out quite yet. And then when it gets better after a couple weeks, they might go off then. So
Yeah.
bees.
Bees are interesting.
Seriously, I don't know why, but I think they are.
So now we flash forward, and they're back at the apartment still. Penny bought the guys dinner. She's obviously feeling very threatened, and she's trying to establish her territory.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a callback to I noticed it was a little bit of a callback to an older episode where they had the Chinese food order with Sheldon. He's very particular.
Yeah.
He wanted chicken with broccoli, diced not shredded, brown rice, the good mustard from the Korean market, and low sodium soy sauce, which was a previous order. And then, boom, he looks at Leonard, is like, that's how it's done.
That's how it's done.
And then she wants to plan the rest of the night, and it really confuses everyone. What do you want to do? Watch Battlestar, play a little Halo, drop a Mentos and a Diet Coke? And then enter Alicia.
I love Raj and Howard, where Raj whispers something and Howard goes, "No, PMS is different." So like they all pick up on like what's going on with
something
her.
Weird is happening.
No.
Well, Alicia needs a ride to an audition, but her car's in the shop. It's for CSI as a hooker that gets killed. Leonard offers to drive. Howard will help her run lines, and Raj is just there, apparently.
He just tags along.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, like when they're at Alicia's apartment earlier, when Raj has the glass of wine and is finally able to talk. I don't know. Alicia kind of smiles at him in a way that's like, "Oh, well, hello there."
Hello there.
She did give him that look.
That's true, and we know in the past that he's successful when
he can actually talk.
Yeah, we can actually talk.
Yeah. A little mocha for the latte. Well, then Alicia says that she thanks them and that she'll buy them all Chinese food at the end.
Even though they have Chinese food right there.
And I just love Penny's like defeat where she's like trying to chime in and they all just leave and she's like, we have Chinese food right here.
Yeah.
And then Sheldon just like looks at her like, what are you doing? They're gone. And then she just unloads on Sheldon. What the nerve of Alicia taking advantage of them. And then Sheldon wonderfully just calls her out. Like, you had us pick up your TV too.
Yeah.
Apples
Episode
and
one.
oranges. And then Sheldon wants to interject because she got the wrong mustard.
Yeah, which I love. Leonard's not there for
Yeah.
after the whole. That's how it's done. Wrong mustard.
Yeah. Well, now we're in the laundry room, and Alicia enters, and Penny is already there. She got the part at CSI, and Penny throws a little bit of shade at her. And Alicia knows that something's wrong, but Penny just assures her that everything's fine. And you know what? You would make a great hooker. Just over her head, she just says, "Oh, thanks." And then Alicia makes her intentions very clear. She asks if physicists make a lot of money, which we've actually discussed in the past.
That was one that...
Yep, we had an IQ point on this. Check out our episode 8, season 1, episode 8, The Grasshopper Experiment, where we deep dive into the salaries of physicists. Well, either way, she's having the guys put up a satellite dish and paint her bedroom. And then Penny chimes in and tries to reason with her, and then she makes that Star Trek reference. Shields up.
Where the hell did that come from?
And then Alicia calls Penny out that she's kind of doing the exact same thing. And then they kind of battle it out, and Alicia calls her a bitch, and then it's on.
It's on, yeah.
But then we cut to the guys arriving to the apartment lobby, where they're discussing the Green Lantern. Raj says, I like the Green Lantern. I'm just saying it's pretty lame that he could be defeated by the color yellow. Sheldon chimes in and says, it's only the modern Green Lantern that is vulnerable to yellow. Then Leonard says that it's the Golden Age Green Lantern that was vulnerable to wood. And Raj has great logic. Oh, so I could beat them both with a number 2 pencil.
Yeah.
So I actually did a little dive on this one.
I did too. I'm curious what you came up with because I didn't realize, like, I knew that there were more than one Green Lantern, but I didn't realize they had different weaknesses. And...
Yeah, I didn't realize that either, but some things were kind of retconned and some things were kind of just like added on and everything like that.
Yeah, changed over time or reestablished.
Yeah, because like the best superheroes are the ones that have bringing it back to balance. You can't just have an ultimate superhero. They have to have a weakness. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about how that's my problem with Superman, that even though kryptonite is his weakness, like it's not, like it doesn't kill him, like nothing can actually stop him, right?
Well, I would think if you pierce him with it.
I think he's in there. Yeah. And then he kind of comes back to life. I think one thing with Superman is that it does hold the key that his weakness are those he loves, right? So I think that's a big thing with Spider-Man too, is that he loses those he cares about most. And he, he's definitely, he can be stopped and killed, but at the same time, he's so strong and smart, and he's basically psychic to some extent with slight sense. He can't be there to save everyone he loves all the time. And that's where the heart of his character, for me, is that he has to learn with that loss and do his best to save what he can and make those challenging decisions, where I feel like Superman just turns time back and saves the day again.
Well, not to spoil, let's just say a mild foreshadowing. There will be a deep dive and IQ point on Spider-Man next episode.
Woohoo! I love Spider-Man.
Look forward to that, everyone. Well, back to Green Lantern. This isn't
Green
Spider-Man
Lantern.
IQ point. This is the Green Lantern one.
Get out of here, Spider-Man.
Let's deep dive his weaknesses. So, yes, everything that they said is true. So green. So let's talk about his weakness to yellow in the modern one. So the Green Lantern is green because green represents willpower. Its powers were ineffective against yellow because yellow stands for fear. This meant that something could simply be turned into yellow and the lantern's rings would have no effect on it whatsoever. As a perfect example, Batman once painted an entire room, Robin, and himself yellow in order to taunt the Green Lantern Hal Jordan, all while drinking a glass of lemonade. Kind of a dick.
Batman, you're kind of a dick, Batman. Bruce, come on.
And this was in All-Star Batman and Robin number 9.
Mm.
So for the wood part, this dates back to the first Green Lantern, Alan Scott. In one of his first stories, Scott was caught by surprise when he was hit in the back of the head with a wooden club, which motivated him to believe that his ring's power had no effect on wood, where in reality, the ring makes the thoughts of its wearer real, which meant that Scott subconsciously created his own weakness to wood going forward, when the truth was that he was just simply caught off guard. And then...
that reminded me of Unbreakable by M. Night Shyamalan and Glass and Split, right? That Bruce Willis's character has the weakness of water because he almost drowned as a kid. And it's this notion that's a weakness because his mind is telling him it's a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that notion that the wood, as opposed to the color yellow, I don't know. That for me always seemed kind of weird, but the wood, and I wasn't that familiar with that first Golden Age Green Lantern, so I might have to read some of his stuff.
Yeah, it sounds foolish, but when you put it in that context about like it being like a psychological thing, like it makes sense. It's like if I was a child and I was bit by a dog, as an adult, I would be afraid of dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
So it as people say it's stupid, but it actually does make sense.
And placebo effect is a real thing, that you give somebody a sugar pill and says it will cure your headache. Like half the time it will cure your headache because you think it will, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, then there is another story that dates this weakness around Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was in 1985. In the story, Alan's ring originally belonged to the Green Lantern named Yalan Gur, who was so favored by the Guardians of the Universe that they removed the yellow impurity from his ring, which the Guardians deliberately placed in all Green Lantern rings to limit their power and could be removed at their discretion. However, Yalan Gur abused his power and interfered with all the inhabitants of ancient China. The Guardians then substituted a weakness for wood that allowed the local peasants to successfully attack and mortally wound Yalan with simple wooden clubs. Yalan flew into the sky and raged against the Guardians. His body burned in the atmosphere, becoming the green metallic meteorite that ultimately became Alan Scott's lantern. Yalan's spirit also possessed the metal, promising death in his rage and life when he realized his mistakes. The first two prophecies of the green metal, which were fulfilled. When Alan received the lantern, the spirit directed Alan to create the power ring and persona of the Green Lantern, complete with the ring's weakness to wood. So that's just another explanation of the weakness to wood. But all this gets retconned. So Alan Scott's retcon was quite simple. He realized his weakness to wood was a figment of his own mind, and the weakness was then eliminated. I tried looking for when this took place, like what arc this was, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Huh.
And that,
as far as I know, the Golden Age is an older series, and like some of this has been changed up. So, the timeline's kind of confusing for me too. Like, which ones do we go to find these storylines?
And not to going into the future episode, the next episode where we talk about Spider-Man, that's kind of what we talk about too. How in comic series, there's multiple different variations. There's like the
Yeah.
ultimate version, the superior, the spectacular, all these different versions. What do they mean? And that's
Yeah.
what we will be deep diving in the future.
Dun 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 dun.
Foreshadow.
Spider-Man.
Well, then there was a little bit of fixing to the weakness to yellow as well. This was a little bit more complex, but during the Green Lantern's rebirth era under Jeff Johns, which was 2016, not to be confused with the 2004 run of the Green Lantern Rebirth, it was revealed that the yellow impurity was the result of the fear entity known as Parallax being trapped within the central power battery, the ring's source of power. Once Parallax was removed, the impurity was corrected, and the rings could then affect yellow objects and foes. This was good timing too, seeing as the formation of the Sinestro Corps was just around the corner, wielding rings that harness the yellow light of fear. And then to carry on with more Green Lantern weaknesses, they actually just kind of retconned it again for another more realistic version of the Green Lantern weakness.
Mm.
In Justice League of America issues 16 and 17, the Justice League is attacked by Prometheus, where he created a neural shaft. This can disrupt the electricity in his brain, making it hard for the Green Lantern to concentrate. This makes it impossible for him to muster his willpower and devise constructs for his rings to create. Without being able to use his ring, the Green Lantern is left powerless at Prometheus's will. This weakness is also even more debilitating than the weakness against wood and the color yellow, as those only prevent Green Lantern from affecting certain objects with their powers, while the neuron chaff prevents him from using his powers at all. In addition, this weakness seems to be more natural than the other two, as it's based directly on how the Green Lantern's powers work. But outside of these Justice League of America issues, this vulnerability is almost never used against the Green Lanterns, which is a kind of an underutilization of that, because the Green Lantern manifests objects with their mind. So if you cut that out with the electrical parts of your brain, it makes them defenseless. So it totally makes sense, and I hope they utilize this in the future.
Well, they might have another comic series coming out sooner or later, right?
Well, Green Lantern at some point is going to show up in the new DC universe by part of the new James Gunn verse.
James Gunn.
What's his face? Oh my God, I am blanking. Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion was cast as one of the Green Lanterns.
Oh.
Yeah, so hopefully, we know the Green Lanterns are coming, so hopefully James Gunn will utilize this weakness as it's more realistic.
Mm-hmm. That'd be cool.
Well, that's my deep dive on the Green Lantern.
He's a character that I just have not known that much about, and this makes me want to look more into him, definitely. Because I watched the Ryan Reynolds movie, but it was bad. It was not a fun watch. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with Hal Jordan. I grew up with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's Green Lantern, because with following the Batman animated series, there was just Justice League of America, and Jon Stewart was the Green Lantern in that one. So that's the Green Lantern that I'm familiar with. So hopefully, well, we know there's going to be a Hal Jordan, so hopefully they cast a Jon Stewart.
And see, I grew up. I had a friend who was really into the Hal Jordan, so that's who I grew up with. As much as I did, again, I didn't know that much about Green Lantern, but when I did, I knew the Hal Jordan version.
Penny and Alicia enter the room fighting, and Howard holds Leonard back because he knows that he would break it up. And
That was an LOL for me.
it was an LOL for me in the beginning when I first saw this, but now as an adult and looking at this, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Your
Yeah.
friend is in a fight. You break that shit up. You're supposed to be her friend. You don't let your friend get into a fight.
Unless she's winning and cheer her
Yeah,
on.
but
I
it
don't
didn't
know.
look like she was winning.
And the whole thing about girl fights, like I never really understood it either. Like the hype of cat fight or whatever. Like I don't get it. So it kind
I
of
don't really get
felt
it
loose,
either.
but I did find it funny that Howard like before Leonard even knew what he was doing, and he knew Leonard very well.
Yep. Well, now we're at the ending. We're back at the apartment, and the guys and Penny are having dinner. And Penny has a black eye. Howard hits on Penny, but this time Penny just thanks him.
Yeah.
Oh, that Philly's been broken.
That's just broken. I like that response. Like something's wrong. I know it.
Did you want to comment on that? Is this the part that you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, actually, I have two things. One, at towards the end, they mention or Sheldon picks up that Leonard gave her DTS, right? And honestly, I don't completely understand this because DTS and Dolby Digital are something that you set like on the DVD disc, the player, and the receiver. I guess you could do it on the programming of the receiver, but I wasn't exactly sure what he was setting to because if you don't set it on every disc, it could revert to Dolby Digital pretty easily. But anyways, they are hearing her upstairs, and Sheldon picks up that it's Dolby Digital or DTS. I mean, not Dolby. And Leonard says he had to set it to it because she called him cutie, and I'm a sucker for that. When somebody like says something nice about me, I'm inclined to say I have to do it. So 1 point for being like Leonard here. Leonard has to do something because he was called cutie. But the other thing I was going to say is the use of she Penny says dead whore on TV, real one in real life, right?
Yep.
Because they hear her upstairs in bed with she's dating a producer. And this is just interesting. I guess I don't know what I was exactly deep diving, but the word whore is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And I don't think they would have used it today because technically it falls into slut shaming. And the notion is a whore is a prostitute, a person who has money for sex. But in the regards that she's using it, is that she is a slut and having sex with many casual sexual partners. Problem with this is it's basically chauvinistic, right? Saying that women are somehow worse if they like having sex. And I find that offensive that in a world where there are a lot of bad things and having sex is one of the only good things in the world. I don't think people should ever be shamed for that, right? As long as it's two consenting adults. Uh, so yeah, something that I thought this was interesting because it clicked with newer versions. I guess not of this term. Well, one of them is. Taylor Swift has a song that I guess she felt was slut shaming. It's called Better Than Revenge. And the old lyrics were she's better known for things she does on the mattress. And apparently, she had a boyfriend who was sleeping with a girl, and was complaining that this girl was a whore, right? A slut. And she has changed the lyrics in the newest release of the song to he was a moth to the flame, she was holding the matches instead of saying mattress. And a lot of people are complaining, but I side with Taylor Swift here that as we grow and learn these terms and how offensive they are, not to just the person you're angry at, that this, like, calling somebody a whore, that has a lot of implications. The other one is Paramore. Apparently, they've stopped singing a line that says, once a whore, you're nothing more. and according to this is variety.com, so I didn't know about that Paramore thing, but a lot of people are taking these slut shaming aspects out of their lyrics or whatnot. And I was just, this again is 15 years old, almost 2009. So it wasn't as known back then. But I think that would probably be taken out. And it did hit a trigger with me that even if she was angry at Alicia, that's not an appropriate attack. But with all that said and done, I do have a story about my own life. When I was in 6th grade, my first detention, actually, I only had 2 detentions in my life, and this was my first one. I had a headache and I wasn't feeling good that day, and I was down picking up my books, getting ready to go to the bus, and a girl came in and took my locker door and just slammed my head into it, or slammed it into my head. So like my head's like here. And I got up and I was like, I'm thinking of like, I don't want to say something too bad. And again, this is like in the early 90s. So if Penny says this in 2009, I go, slut, and turn around and get my books. And I'm walking out and the teacher calls me to her. And apparently the girl told on me and said, Ryan called me a slut, an SLUT. And I go, yeah, but that was actually after she committed physical violence against me. And the teacher said, I don't care. Your word is much worse. Why did you say this? And then had a big conversation about, I'm like, it's something I heard on TV. She attacked me basically. And she's like, I don't care. You get a detention. And so I have a personal vendetta against these words slut and whore and a lot of emotional baggage. But yeah, that was my first, and I still stand by that. Physical violence is worse than any word you call it.
Yeah, I say physical violence is way worse.
Yeah,
I know words hurt. I won't like diminish that or like downplay that. Words do mean something, but physical violence is like way worse.
Yeah, so I feel like this teacher had personal issues with the words, with the word. And
did you tell your parents? I feel like if that happened, I've been talking a lot of parental strategies with my wife because Hunter's only 10 months old and we're trying to like, our mind is like everywhere and everything. Like what kind of person he's going to be? What kind of friends is he going to have? What happens if he gets bullied? And like, there's that mama bear in both of us that will like, I will kill that kid. I will let your out. I might cut this part out, but
it's true nonetheless.
But it's that like if you hurt even a teacher, even if it's an adult, I will go Karen on you.
And I remember my dad getting home, and I was so upset. I was crying, and my dad used to give us spankings. I didn't get that many, but this was a time that he was coming up to give me a spanking. He's like, you got a detention, you were bad, you're going to get a spanking. And he goes, what did you say? And I'm like, slut. He goes, no, really, what did you say? I'm like, no, really. And then he laughed. He's like, that's no big deal. And like walked away. And like, so I don't know. There's a lot to be said. And I don't even know if, I think I'm with you that if my kid said that she slammed my head in my locker,
I feel like if
got away with it.
If Hunter told me that he was physically assaulted and the teachers took the side of the assaulter, I will go apeshit.
That's my impression with who I am now too. And at the time I was a kid, so I didn't know I could go above the teacher and like say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And honestly, at the time, school violence wasn't as known or really publicized of a thing. So
until the mass shootings happened.
Exactly, until actual bad, people actually get
repercussions.
Yeah. So things, things change, and I'm not condoning what I said. I'm just saying that it's an interesting topic and something that I've thought about for a long portion of my life. And there's a lot of, I don't hate Penny for saying it, but at the same time, the joke kind of fell short and for me.
Yeah, because it's like you said, it wouldn't fly today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Frasier. I think I told you this, and there's so many because it was like it started in like the early 90s and went all the way up until like the early 2000s. And there are so many things that's like, oh, that would not fly today.
Yeah. And even what we're saying today and what we see in 10 years might not be flying. And we're like, how did we, goddamn, Rob, how did we have a podcast?
Take it down. Take it down.
Oh my goodness. They're
my
going to
God.
kill us.
Mrs. Doubtfire is on Hulu right now. So Christina are watching that in sections as we eat dinner and everything like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there is such a problem. It's so problem. Like,
and that was a kid's movie, right?
Yeah. I was like, oh, wow, they could never do a remake of this one. Like, it's funny, like the last time I saw that movie, I was probably like 10. So of course you side with the main character, you side with the kids. But now that I'm an adult watching it, I'm like, wow, he's a shitty father.
Terrible person.
Wow, he's actually kind of a terrible person.
That's kind of like a Hocus Pocus. Like the original, the witches were children murderers. They were serial killers, right?
Yeah.
They would lure children in and murder them. And for the sequel, as kind of like a reboot sequel, they kind of changed that around because we can't have a children's movie with these serial killers, right? And everybody kind of likes the witches, so they need to make them kind of likable, and you can't really side with the murderers too much.
Yeah, sadly, I've never seen Hocus Pocus.
It's worth watching.
It's on both 1 and 2 are on Disney Plus, and now that Halloween is around the corner, I am determined to check it out.
Perfect opportunity.
Yep. Hunter won't understand it, but you know what? Whatever.
There'll still need some part of him, like witches, cool.
Yeah. Even though he's only 10 months old and the can't even say cool.
You look over at him as he's watching and he gives you a thumbs up and you're like, oh my God, Ryan was right.
All right. Don't slut shame everyone.
Yeah. That's the moral of this lesson and podcast.
Yeah, because everybody can enjoy sex.
Yeah. Sex is a good thing.
Yeah.
For consenting adults.
Yep. Well, now we hear some creaking upstairs. And Sheldon is so innocent, he thinks that they're jumping on the bed.
I feel like Sheldon would not be a consenting adult, so I don't know how this is going to be. Oh, she's jumping on the bed now. And I love the look on Leonard and Penny's face. They're like, what?
Oh my God. And that's the episode.
That's the end.
We did it. Well, we did it. Let's count up some points.
Yep.
I'll count the IQ points.
All right, so Sheldon gained some points in this episode, especially for the one you granted. We have 63, not like Sheldon. 65, I am like Sheldon.
No,
Sheldon.
You Shelley.
I am Shelley. I be Shelley.
So towards the end, you kind of did like a deep dive into like kind of slut shaming. Is that an IQ point?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
A little bit of how language has changed and what we understand. I'm gonna say yeah. Why not?
All right, that brings us to 6 IQ points.
Nice.
All right, any last minute thoughts on this episode?
That's all I have. I'm looking forward to a Spider-Man dive.
Oh, yeah.
I was telling Rob before the episode started that I just got the new Spider-Man movie, the animated Into the Spider-Verse, and I am so excited. I haven't seen it yet. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I need to watch it too. I was telling Ryan with the kid, I can't go to the theater very often because Hunter is so young that we just don't feel comfortable leaving him with a stranger right now.
Apparently,
we
kids need parents. Stupid kids.
So needy.
Who would have thought?
So, yeah, I should Redbox it or something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'll get around to watching it. Maybe, should we watch it and talk about it next episode? Is it on Redbox right now?
I think so.
Is Redbox still a thing?
I don't think so. It's on it, but Redbox doesn't exist. Might be on Voodoo too. Voodoo.
Now let's run a search. Spider-Man. No, it's not on Redbox yet. Never mind.
You know what? It might be coming Tuesday. Look for it Tuesday.
All right. Well, we will tentatively watch Across the Spider-Verse and have a deep dive, or have a ending. We'll talk about it at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going for.
It's going to be talked about,
just like how we talked about the Lord of the Rings series. We talked about the menu. Yeah. So we'll let you know. We might have a deep dive on this one. Well, all right. Well, thanks, everyone. Remember to leave us a review on Apple. If you do, don't forget to email us your screen name, and you will have a chance to win a $100 gift card. At this point, we only have 3 entries, so you have a very good chance to win that $100 gift card. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Gingerly tap that like button. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And sorry, I started cutting you off.
Oh no, I think I was just mumbling.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next time when we talk about Season 2, Episode 20, The Hofstadter Isotope. Thanks for listening. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Al Scroll, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening. Turkey drunk review.
A turkey drunk review.